Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling. You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
Hello and welcome to 2015's Games of the Decade, and I am your host Sean Garmer. And well, the last two were pretty difficult to go through. 2015, I don't know if it's just as bad or maybe a little better, but either way, lots of great games to discuss for this year. And I'll explain the process in just a little bit, but let me introduce the rest of the cast here. Mr. Marc Morrison is with me.
Howdy.
Also here, Randy Isbelle.
Hello.
And Jens Dietrich.
Hi.
Alright, so we're at 2015. We're trying to get to 2019 to go through the entire decade. Of course, if you've been a listener to the podcast, you know we did a top 25 for 2019. So maybe 2019 won't do too much, but we're getting to sort of claim our, I guess, for the years that the website didn't exist, we get to claim our game of the year. And also, eventually, we're making a top 100 games of the decade. So this kind of lets us know what were the big games to highlight for those years and what really needs to be included and what doesn't in that huge list. But we had a process for this top 15-ish that we're about to go through, and that was to us four, along with two other people that are now present on the podcast, voted with your number 1 being 10 points, your number 10 being 1 point, and that was all added up into a top 15 for every year, as you've heard us go through for 2010, 2014. So we're doing the same thing here. And if you're listening right at 2015, well, thank you either way. And you can always go backwards if you want to, or go forward, because we're doing 2016 to 2018 pretty quickly in a few days. So let's begin with what our 2015 list looks like right now before we make any changes. 2015 looks like this. Metal Gear Solid 5 is number 1. Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, number 2. Until Dawn, 3. Ori and the Blind Forest, 4. Super Mario Maker, 5. Bloodborne, 6. Rocket League, 7. Fallout 4, 8. Zombie Chronicles X, 9. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is also tied for 9th. Rise of the Tomb Raider, 11. Life is Strange is tied for 11th, along with Batman Arkham Knight. And Kerbal Space Program, Tales from the Borderlands, and tied for 15th with Tales from the Borderlands, the Talos Principle, and Total War Italia. And just missing out, Undertale and Yakuza 5 at 18th, and Persona 4 Dancing All Night at 20th. So,
Attila, as in Attila the Hun.
Yeah, Total War.
Attila, sorry. Either way, okay, I feel
make the list.
I get it that not a lot of people particularly that actually did the vote cared for this game, but to say that it's not important or not huge for its year or hasn't made a difference in how we looked at RPGs or indie games since then
Undertale
is absolutely underwriting it, because Undertale is hugely important. Not to mention, it has taken Toby Fox to another level, because now he makes soundtracks for other video games and other things, so yeah, go ahead.
I feel both Kerbal Space Program and Undertale need to be on the list because they're hugely significant in the indie space.
I do too. The fact that 2K went and bought Kerbal Space Program and is making a second one somewhere, that's a big deal. Or he bought the developers. They bought the developers there, but
I would say we can dump Fallout 4 from the big list.
Yes.
I agree too.
Trash.
That's a bad game. Like, I loved Fallout 3. I liked Fallout New Vegas, but Fallout 4 is a legitimately bad game, I think. Just
One of the biggest, one of my biggest gaming disappointments ever when I first booted it up and was just like, wait a second, this is just Fallout 3, like running. Like, I don't understand what Bethesda was. It's kind of the same thing that I was talking about, like late Telltale games running on PS4. It's like, how can a Fallout game running on PS4 run so poorly and look so...
Well, they had the same problem with Fallout 3 on PS3.
I played Fallout 4 on PC, so it ran fine. My biggest problem with the story itself, like the whole Railroad versus Brotherhood versus Institute of Technology, like that was just a terrible story.
Yeah, the story was not as good as 3, and then just all the garbage that they layered on top that nobody asked for, like all the like crafting and building things and like all that stuff, and they throw it at you like immediately, like before you even get into the game proper. They don't like gradually ease you into it at all. They're just like, here's a bunch of crap that you don't want to deal with immediately. Like the drop off at that. I did not get very far in Fallout 3. Like I hated it pretty much from the start.
Fallout 4.
Sorry. Fallout 3 is great. Fallout 4, garbage.
Yeah, like Fallout 4 did make some good improvements to the system or to like the gameplay. Like your armor and stuff doesn't take durability damage anymore. We're gonna have to repair it. It's like, well, that's nice. But
isn't it better though? That's taking away a system.
It's taking away a really annoying system.
Yeah.
Or like you can fast travel even when you're encumbered. It's like, hey,
that does make things a little bit easier, yeah.
But everything else is just terrible.
Well, Randy, you're gonna defend one of the games you were most hyped for?
No, I'm with Jens. I was hyped for it. I mean,
I had the stupid Fallout 4 Special Edition.
Me too. We have the Pip-Boy.
The Pip-Boy.
I will say Haley loved those editions. She's more of the Fallout person than I am. I enjoyed 3, and I like New Vegas a lot. But I didn't get into 4. I'm with Jens. I played it for a little bit and moved on. And Haley, for a long time, just would keep going back to 4 just to do the buildings and stuff. Like she would rarely do missions. She has a whole camp that each room has its own stuff, and she has all of her what am I thinking of? The vault armor stuff.
Power armor.
Power armor, thank you. She has a whole room where she has all her different ones.
You should introduce her to a little game called Fallout 76 because that's all that there is.
She played it for a little bit and went back to Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So again, I have no problem with it making the list, or missing the list, excuse me, because I'm like Jens. I was super hyped for that game, and
I think
everyone the Pip-Boy on the shelf, and it didn't deliver. So
I was so excited to see, and maybe it's my own fault for not, my MO is I don't really look at stuff before it comes out. Like I try not to, like I knew I was going to get it, so I didn't look at any of it, and I was shocked because I thought it was going to be next gen Fallout, and it was not next gen at all.
No, I mean I knew it looked better than the last game, but it's still basically running the same engine.
Marginally.
I think they snowed people with like, it was better, it's bigger and badder and whatever, and it's like, no, like it's more boring, so you have that going for it, I guess. But like even the whole premise of you trying to find your son is basically invalidated by like you're this guy from the past and you act like a present day character. And it's like, shouldn't you say, like, what's this big green guy? Like, your character has, like, no agency in that world whatsoever. It's, like, super weird.
All right, so if we want Kerbal and Undertale both on the list, what other game do we want to bump?
I'd be okay. I mean, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, it's a good Assassin's Creed game. It's got the territory control stuff. The combat was really good. It looks pretty. You can tell that it's the Saints Row 3 guy kind of being the lead designer on it. Because there's a lot of Saints Row 3 in it.
I didn't say Rocket League.
No, stop it.
No
way.
Rocket League is
really
too important.
Very important for...
I don't care about importance. I didn't like playing it that much.
I loved it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That game is super fun.
Say, I liked it. Don't say, it's important. Say, I enjoyed playing it.
Yeah, but, all right, think about this. Rocket League is the best soccer game ever made.
No, that's Mega Man Soccer.
But I mean, like, it feels something about, like, even though you're driving cars and, like, kicking the ball by driving into the ball with your car. It feels more like, as somebody who played soccer in my youth, it feels more like a soccer game than, most of those simulated, FIFA and all these kind of things.
Yeah, I tell this story all the time with Rocket League, which actually somebody at where I work at has just gotten back into Rocket League, so I'm tempted to do it myself. But I always tell people with Rocket League is when that game first came out, I always felt like I was really, really good at that game, even though we all acted like 5-year-olds playing soccer. Right? Nobody had strategy. Nobody, just all 6 cars just going for the ball. And we felt like we were good. And then, a couple days later, people are learning, okay, have somebody back at goalie and stuff. So it was really fun to watch the evolution of the way people figured out this game. Mm-hmm. And then I went down to RTX in Texas that year and even got on the main stage and played Rocket League with a couple of the guys there and scored both the goals. I feel all badass. Man, I'm really good at this game. And I came back home and turned on the game, and everyone was flying. It's like they had all figured it out in the week I was gone.
Yep.
And just the evolution of that game is so good. But yet, you can still play it with friends. I mean, you don't have to be super great to play it and still have a lot of fun. They've added a bunch of modes to it. It's fantastic. My question, because I haven't played this game.
It's esport. Not only that, too. I mean, we got to think about, okay, Minecraft is this huge behemoth, right? And so is Fortnite. But to get Sony, now obviously Sony is the one that helped Rocket League become popular in the first place, being on PS Plus. But to get Sony to join in with crossplay for a game like that, I think that's huge into Rocket League's significance.
Yeah, but I think what Randy said, though, is really the main point, which is that it's a game that's incredibly easy to pick up, but it has a huge skill ceiling. Mm-hmm. So it's like the easy to play, tough to master thing.
Right, it's very the same as understanding the strategy of soccer. It's easy for you to pick up and play FIFA, but if you want to be really good at it at a harder difficulty, you got to understand the game. And if you understand the game, you can play it with cards.
Randy, you had a question about another game before we cut you off.
Yeah, that's okay. But real quick with Rocket League, the customization you can do with that car too is really great and really fun to unlock things and stuff. My question was, because I haven't played this game, and I know it made a list earlier, so I'm just going to ask the question. What's the difference between Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles X? Are they different games, or is it an upgrade?
Well, one takes place in the future where Dr. Lightus died.
No, they're different games.
Yes.
Totally different combat systems, different
No,
worlds.
that's fine. I just had seen the name. I don't know anything about it, so I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say about this list, like the list of top 10, I mean, I played it and I enjoyed it. I mean, I would actually seriously knock off Until Dawn and put Life is Strange on there instead.
That's not a bad argument, actually. I mean, they're both adventure games in their own way.
Like Until Dawn is going for the creepy horror thing, and the choices are pretty interesting, and it looks great. Don't get me wrong, but I just like Life is Strange more. The atmosphere is cooler. I thought the story was better. Like the powers you got were interesting. Like the characters were better.
I'm not going to throw a huge fit either way. I loved Until Dawn a lot more. The side character, your best friend or whatever in Life is Strange, I hated her in playing that game. So every decision I made was to spite her. But
you
then
didn't
the
save
game
her in the end?
No, rewind time. That was the easiest decision ever. But my problem with Life is Strange and with a lot of these games in general, and I think I talked about it in the Walking Dead one a few episodes ago.
Too long?
No, it's a fake choice. They give you choice options, but it still brings you back. Because every decision I had with her, I was completely against her, yet the next episode we're buddy and doing this. It was like I was doing everything I could to get her out of my life.
I mean, Until Dawn changes quite a bit just in who survives and who dies. So
yeah, but that happens also in Life is Strange, like that. Your friend Kate, if you can either save her from jumping out the building or not.
So I haven't played Life is Strange. I can understand Mark's argument for why it should be on the list because I know a lot of people who played it and loved it. But just looking both those games from a presentation standpoint, Until Dawn is above it and beyond.
Also, the voice actors they got to play for that. I mean, you got some really good ones too.
They're digitized. It's mocap. stuff, right?
Right, but I mean, still, you're talking about
both games are acted well.
that makes those games. If they're not acted well,
agree.
there's no So I mean, we could drop Until Dawn certainly lower, and we want to make that case. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do we? Is that
So
the
to
one
me,
we're removing?
I think
for
if we're
Kerbal
drop-
Space Program?
I think if we've dropped one. We dropped Fallout 4. If we want to drop another one for both Kerbal and Undertale, we have to drop probably either Xenoblade or Syndicate.
Yes.
I mean, I would be happy with dropping Syndicate, but the only game I would move up the list from the bottom one is Rise of the Tomb Raider.
I agree there. I feel like
It's a good evolution of Tomb Raider. It's a good game.
It's much better, and it felt more focused than the last one, for sure, and more confident. Don't get Shadow of the Tomb Raider will not be in any of these lists. That's a bad game, but
game.
Rise.
I wouldn't say a bad game, just not as good as the other two.
No, it's bad.
It's a good game.
Rise is like the Empire Strikes Back of these Tomb Raider games. It's like the best one.
Don't put it with Star Wars and give us a bad name.
What about it's weird because I've seen a lot of people defend Batman Arkham Knight all of a sudden.
No,
Those people are wrong.
It's perfectly fine. Especially once they fix
so
it.
So Arkham Knight the Shadow of the Tomb Raider of the other.
But it's just not. I don't think it's as refined as Tomb Raider or any of the other.
I will agree that I like Rise of the Tomb Raider better than Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Personally.
All right, so if we drop Syndicate for Rise of the Tomb Raider, which one do we bump up, Kerbal or Undertale?
Well, I would say Undertale because no one here likes Kerbal.
Well, too bad Daniel's not on here because I remember he's always supported Kerbal anytime we've had some kind of thing where it could be on there.
Also,
I've never played Kerbal, but I love watching Kerbal. I've watched a lot of Let's Plays of Kerbal.
Also, the problem with Kerbal, it's been out for yes, it came out this year, but it was released 4 years ago from 2011 or whatever. Officially released in 2015, I guess, but.
Well, yeah, I don't count the early access or whatever because technically there's a lot of games that should have come out earlier if that's the case. That's the problem with doing early access. That puts them in totally different years, which changes the landscape of what they are at that time compared to when they actually come out. Okay, so we have our 10. At least, right? This is
I think we got our 10.
It's just moving up and down. Okay, so
and I think there's a big difference between the top 6, maybe other than Until Dawn, and the bottom 4. I can see Until Dawn dropping below Rocket League or Undertale. Yeah. But those other 5 in the top 6, I think, are untouchable.
Bloodborne needs to move up.
I agree with Bloodborne. That's the best Souls game.
Yes. And also was gateway drug for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know not everybody likes the blood. I love gothic horror, so I'm totally down with what Bloodborne is, but I know a lot of people dislike it immensely, so that's usually a knock that people give it if they don't want to vote it over the other.
The art game is amazing, and the kind of Lovecraftian enemy designs is...
Yes.
It's my favorite bosses and my favorite enemies, really.
I love the way it changes Dark Souls a little bit. Like I think I said earlier, you got to be a little bit more aggressive. It's not as easy to cheese, I think, as the other.
Yeah, it's faster paced.
Yeah, it's faster. It streamlines a lot of the Dark Souls stuff. So, there's that as well. I think. Obviously helps when you've had the history that From Software has at that point, but
I feel it's number 3. It's like MGS5, Witcher 3, and Bloodborne at the top 3, and then we can argue about what order they're in. But that's where I
would agree too.
If you're putting that above Ori, you're crazy, and Mario Maker for that matter.
I mean, Super Mario Maker was an amazing game in a way that 2 is not. And I put a lot of time into it. I mean, I made a bunch of levels at the time. I was way into the maker part of it.
And even without the maker part, it's a great Mario game, and it's a great, like, just playing on people's levels was great.
But I do still think Bloodborne's a better game overall.
Yeah, well, of course you do.
And has better legacy.
Of that stupid game genre. Like,
I would say I'm a huge proponent of Ori and the Blind Forest, so I'm with Mark at, like, moving it to me from 3 is...
Alright. How about Ori at 3, Bloodborne at 4?
Alright, so where do you land on this, Randy?
I'm with a lot of people where, like, the From Software games are just not my cup of tea. I've given Bloodborne a shot, and I will agree, it, like, graphically is stunning. I like the art style of it. I don't think I've ever beat the first boss, because it just kicks the crap out of me.
It's a great game right until you play it, and then you're like, wait,
no, I always enjoy it. It's just really, I mean, it's really hard, and I just haven't, like, figured out the system as well. It's the same kind of things with some of these harder, like Super Meat Boy. It's very hard for some people. I get it. So I understand why people get down with these From Software games. And, like, if we're talking about, like, Dark Souls being more samey and stuff, Bloodborne was a lot different than Dark Souls. So I agree. So I love Ori. Those are my kind of games, like Metroidvania games, 2D platformer games. That's my genre that I go into. So I have a bigger love for Ori than Bloodborne, but Bloodborne being 4, I have no problem with.
Alright, so Bloodborne at 4. Yeah, because, like, Ori is just, it's such a beautiful game to look at. It's such, I don't know how many times I died trying to look at the scenery that I was about to go through, and it's a challenging platformer on its own. It's masked by these cutesy characters that don't really say much, and then you also have just a, like, beautiful, like, just emotional story as well. It's all packaged in this game that I think kind of came out of nowhere, and I just love it for that. I'm so excited for that second game.
I'm with you.
Wow. So how do we all feel about this list? This list's looking pretty good to me.
Man, okay, here's my thing with, like, I feel like, I don't know, am I the only one that's going to say maybe Witcher 3 at number 1?
No, actually I agree.
No, Leon and Kay would say that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a better story, it's a better game overall. I know that systemically, MGS4 has, I mean, 5 has amazing systems, but I do think I haven't actually finished it, but from what I hear, the story fizzles out, and it's kind of unfinished towards the end.
It's like Kojima almost kind of just said, peace out.
3, which has, like, 2-month story, so you get bored halfway through.
No, that's your problem, man. Witcher 3, every little bit of side content in Witcher 3 is totally bespoke and totally compelling.
Well, like the 6 missions it takes you to find Dandelion. That was great.
You're not gonna get anywhere with me with these kind of arguments.
Because they're accurate, correct?
No, I've never played Witcher 3. All I've heard is that it's a wonderful card game. Is that right?
Oh, I actually do not like Gwent. The outlier there.
But no, honestly, again, I'm the big Kojima fan probably of this group. I have no problem moving MGS5 down because it wasn't finished. Yeah, like, I love the systems of it. I love that it was a bigger version of Peace Walker and kind of used a lot of those systems and put it on the big console, and some of the missions were fantastic. Some of the characters were very Kojima-like and way over the top, but that game fizzles out quick. So I have no problem with Witcher 3 going.
Yeah, I mean, Witcher 3 was really... And Witcher 3, in fact, kind of the later you get in the game, the better it gets.
Well,
like, there's some stuff that stands out early on, like Bloody Baron. But, like, the DLC in Witcher 3, like, once you're, like, in your 150th hour of that game, and you own a winery, and you're doing all that stuff, like, that game is so great.
That'll be Randy in 2 weeks. Don't worry.
No, I mean, that was a game that, like, I played that over the course of the year. Like, it took me a whole year to beat Witcher 3. I had to put it down now and then. I kind of played it on and off. But, you know, it is one of the most memorable and epic gaming experiences of my life.
See, I think both these games illustrate later Ubisoft games, they get way too big and way too grandiose, and I just lose interest in both of them.
Yeah, not to mention it sets the stage for Assassin's Creed changing. As Odyssey and Origins completely try to be Witcher 3. It hurts it.
Ubisoft games, lots and lots of copy paste. Like there's so much repetition. You're doing the same mission. I don't feel like there's enough variety to sustain the bloat of Ubisoft open world games. Witcher 3, there is always like every little building, every corner of the world you go into, there's something like neat there that is custom that like somebody spent time on.
It's all in the face of doing the same 3 or 4 things. Hunting a monster or clearing out these bandits.
But the monsters all like there's totally different ways of dealing with like fighting a wight is totally different than fighting a werewolf, and you have to like prep for it and have different strategies and like get to know your herbs.
It's almost like Monster Hunter in a way.
Yeah, like there's so much depth. It is, and it's like the accessible because I find Monster Hunter to be completely inaccessible. But like Witcher 3 hits that sweet spot for me where it's like the right level, and it's not as because Witcher 2 was fairly unforgiving and the crafting was not as good, but like Witcher 3 they really.
I finished Witcher 2. I didn't
Witcher
finish
2 also a terrible map.
I didn't finish Witcher 3, and I spent the same amount of time in both. Like I spent about 40 hours or 23 hours in Witcher 2, and in Witcher 3 I spent about 30.
I mean, yeah, there's way more game in Witcher 3, but it's all good. It's
not. I spent 42 hours in Witcher 3.
Okay.
And I got bored when I had to keep trying to find Dandelion.
I mean, that was a long quest line, but like everything. Okay, maybe the middle of the game is a little baggy, but
the Bloody Baron is a great quest line. I mean, sure, but it peaks so early. And then you have another 80 hours until you find Ciri and something else happens.
But all the late game stuff with Ciri and Yennefer, there are so many memorable things.
Yeah, I'm not gonna blow through 100 hours. Wait until the game gets good.
Yeah, again. That's unfair to say that somebody should wait much longer.
I'm saying it's all good, and if you get to care so much about these characters. That like it pulls you through even the quests that you don't like. You've got to admit that like it's always unique locations. There's unique characters, unique dialogue, like everything about it. Like there's no bloat. No. We're just making this stuff to fill time or to fill content.
That is exactly what most of The Witcher 3 is.
It's not. Like compared to like an Ubisoft game or a wannabe Ubisoft game, where it's just okay, you can do these outposts or you can do all this stuff that's basically copy paste content.
Also, the Witcher 3 upgrade system was bad. The mutagen crap, like you got skill points and you just had nothing. You couldn't spend them.
The mutagen. There is some. You're right. I mean, there's mutagens that I never used, but there's also mutagens that were extremely useful. So it's just kind of a matter of figuring out which ones are going to be of aid to you based on your playstyle. But anyway, it sounds like everybody but Marc agrees on the top 2 here.
Once again, I'm the lone one who's correct.
Yeah, but okay, you're saying Metal Gear Solid 5 is also not number 1, so.
But Metal Gear Solid 5 also has bloat. So if you're going to go by bloat...
No, I mean, yes. Metal Gear Solid 5 should have ended, like, at that first chapter ending, essentially. Before they screw you over and go, hey, do all the missions again.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
I have a solution. We move them both down, or it can be 1. It's cool.
No.
I tried, Sean.
So, what are you saying is number 1 then?
No, I would still say Metal Gear Solid 5. Like it has a lot of problems, but none of them are as structural as Witcher 3, just getting completely boring halfway through.
That's crazy talk.
Metal Gear Solid it's at least 75% boring. That's how long it takes to get bored by that game.
So we're quantifying
Like, if you want to have Witcher 3, that's fine.
How quickly it takes to get boring?
Well, it's how expansive these games got, and they just none of them can support their own weight. Like Syndicate almost has this problem as well. It's not as bad as the later Assassin's Creed games, where like I think I finished Origins and I didn't visit half the map I could have.
I mean, by the time I finished Syndicate, I definitely was like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, I don't want to put another minute into this thing.
Right.
But again, Syndicate has way more repetition, and Metal Gear Solid 5 has way more repetition than Witcher 3. Witcher 3, like, sure, you're doing the same basic tasks all the time. You're doing Witcher things, but like at the end of each quest, like each little quest line, there are so many great ones. Like, what about the one where they tell you to put that ghost to rest, and if you decide to free the ghost, he goes and like murders the family who hired you. There are so many imaginative ways that you can fuck up. Like each quest has like 3 or 4 different outcomes.
Quest line, but there are also a lot of bloat where it's just like, hey, go hunt this monster. You visit the town, the outpost or the signpost says, hey, here are 9 quests to do. It's like, dude, okay, I'll go do these, and then none of them matter.
That's a problem for almost any open world game. I mean,
there are at least 2 different outcomes, usually 3 to each quest, depending on what you do. Like, this is a game, even tiny little side mission will give you choices that have an impact on the world.
It's either stab monster or play Gwent against the monster, and that's about it.
That is absolutely not true.
Oh my god. Okay, so
sometimes you can befriend the monster. Sometimes you can kill the person who hired you. There's all these, it's a witch. I don't know what you want. I don't know what anybody could want out of that game more than what it gave you. I mean, it gives you so much variety, so much story.
It's easy. Witcher 2 was a much more concise and focused game. I liked that more.
Witcher 2 is a way more unfocused story than 3.
Yeah.
Like, the story in 2 is all over the place.
No, the story in 2, like, it changes based on, whatever choice you made in the beginning.
Of course, but
you can finish Witcher 2 in like 30 hours or 20 if you just really want to blaze through it.
Okay,
you can't do that with Witcher 3 at all.
We're going in circles, Mark.
Yeah.
Let's just leave them where they are.
Okay, so one thing I will say, probably move Rise of the Tomb Raider up 1. You can move Xenoblade down.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then you leave it. Alright, so there's the list. Game of the Year for 2015, as it was for many people's, even though it was a fight between that and Metal Gear Solid 5 for a lot of people at that, and Bloodborne. Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, number 1. Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, number 2. Ori and the Blind Forest at 3. Bloodborne at 4. Super Mario Maker at 5. Rocket League 6. Undertale 7. Rise of the Tomb Raider at 8. Xenoblade Chronicles X is 9. And Until Dawn is at number 10. So, there you go. There's your top 10 for 2015. And that'll be it for this set of games of the decade. Right now, the other 4, actually, for the 4 years remaining, are all set for Tuesday morning is when you'll see them. So, hopefully we'll be done with almost the entirety of part 1 of what we're trying to do here by Tuesday morning when we do 2016 through 2019. Probably 2018 and 2019 will just be done together on one show because I don't think we're going to be changing too much about 2019 since we just did it. Then we'll just have that influentials episode and we'll be talking about our making the top 100, which will be even more difficult than what we're doing right now. So, if you liked everything you heard here, all the arguments and the fun, you can go back and listen to all the other ones that we've done already. And hopefully you'll stick around and be back for the rest of them we still have to do. And, of course, you can hit subscribe on any of the podcasting services that are out there. You can go give us a review if you'd like as well. That helps immensely. And check out w2mnet.com and Last Word on Life as well for having us on there. And for all these guys, we'll see you in a few days for more of this. And see you later.
All right.